All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Monday Morning Wake Up Podcast. And I've got a special treat for you. In fact, we were talking, Vivian, a little bit before we got going here. And I said, there's not many people that have just made me feel like an inadequate human being in a good way. Like sometimes you need to feel inadequate because you need to grow, And I'm like, man, I thought I was doing okay. And then I talked to Vivian. And then you guys are going to understand why as I go through some of these questions. Sean always says, Vivian, he's like, man, why don't you just have some respect for yourself? And that statement has helped me keep the right perspective in many different times when I needed the right perspective to keep moving and keep my eyes on a higher thing, meaning that we were going through litigation and stuff in the beginning. And I'm like, dude, man, it's a lot. The attorneys are not free. Like, I didn't know attorneys cost how much. Like, that's a lot. He's like, well, dude, why don't you just go at 50,000 and have some respect for yourself? I was like, got it. And that was easy. That was it. It solved my issue. I stopped looking at litigation. I looked at what I could control, which is my activity. After this call, I've just promise you, after this podcast, from now on, I'm just going to say, why don't you just have some Vivian, get a little Vivian in you, because you've figured out a way to go out there and just get above anything that can come at you, because you have the power to do that, right? And move forward. And so, Vivian, I just want to say thank you for joining, and I'm excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I'm honored.
I'm honored to have you on. And guys, as we get moving through this podcast, because I can promise you, I've already got a great feeling about where this is going to go. Make sure to like, subscribe, share this as well. I always say everybody wants to make a difference. I think everybody inherently wants to be a meaningful specific for somebody. And some people overthink that, like, well, I got to be able to sit down and give them an hour and a half counseling. What? No, just share some good content. Sometimes that makes a difference. And I promise you today, this will be one that you want to share. So share it, like it, subscribe it, comment as well. Every single week we do a drawing and we pull out a winner. They win $250 in lead credit. So they can go out there and make this week better than last week, which is a goal and the purpose of this podcast. And so, Vivian, let's kind of get to know you a little bit. Give us a little bit about your backstory, kids, family, what does that look like? And how did you find Family First Life? Also, what was attractive to Family First Life that kind of got you moving and saying, hey, I want to work with that company?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I started my very first company. I was 22 years old. My background is in building companies, growing them, sometimes selling them, sometimes failing at them. Just I've never really worked for anybody. I always worked for myself. So it comes easy for me when it comes to owning my own business. The reason I got into insurance was beginning of 2020. I had I had gone through a really hard time in my life where I was going through a divorce and I had to separate companies with my ex-husband and everything. And then I had a very successful jewelry line that was doing phenomenal. And I decided to change everything and launch this new jewelry line where my husband and I put over $1 million into. And 6 months after we started the company, we didn't make a dime. We didn't sell a dime. So at that point, we were like, okay, we need to figure this out because we were $500,000 in debt. Nothing, the needle wasn't moving and we were about to be evicted from our place in Miami and LA. And at that point, we're like, we need to find something else. So my husband is a structural engineer. I have massive, experience as being a CEO and CMO. And then at the time I started looking for jobs. And that's when I found insurance. It wasn't FFL per se. It was a different company. I started making 60% comp. And I actually turned down a $250,000 CMO job to be able to start working with insurance, just because when I learned what was possible, and I was like, hold on a minute. I can go and take this job right now where I'm going to make $250,000, but I'm working for somebody else. And then I'm not going to have the freedom to do what I want. And I really can't grow as high as I want, or I can do this at 60% commission. Okay. I can do this. And you know what? I'm worth a lot more than $250,000. I know that if it depends on me, I can do a lot. I can make a lot more than 250. So I took that one job. Well, not job. I started working with insurance with this different company, with the practice company. And my very first month in the business, I did $38,000 issue paid. No experience, nothing. And then I went on to become my following months, every single one of them were over $50,000. And at that time, I was, it was when COVID hit. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do?" And I was doing great. I was, I love this. I love the business. A few months down the road, I think it was like 4 months after I started. That's when I met Andrew, and then I learned about FFL. And then when I heard that you could make more than 100%, I was like, "What is that? What?" I thought it was really awesome at 60%. Hold on a minute. How is that possible? And then I was able to meet with Andrew, and he kind of explained to me. And Sean called me. So Sean calls me. He says, "Vivian, listen, you are an entrepreneur, and I heard Andrew told me amazing things about you. So you come over here, you keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna have everything you want, the business you want in 2 years. It's not gonna take 10, it's gonna take 2 years." So I look at Adriano and I'm like, he said 2 years. And then at that point I was like, I'm coming. The company is incredible, the leads are phenomenal. The leadership is par none. I mean, I told Sean the other day, I said, "Sean, I would do anything for you, just because the type of leader that you are, it just doesn't exist." So yeah, I came to FFL. First full time, first full month, I did 107,000. I went from doing $52,000 to $107,000 doing the same work.
Why do you think that changed? Like, what was the big thing? And before we get to that question, because I have to make a comment on a couple of things that you said. One of them is when you talked about like kind of working with this other company. And the thing is this, the industry is so lucrative. And that's what you were so attracted to, was the industry, the ability to go out there and make that kind of money, which is why you said no to $250 a year. But a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. Like there's a lot of people with FFL that stepped in the industry, and it wasn't because they had a bad judgment of what company to work for. They just didn't know any better. Like I didn't know any better. And the funny thing is, it seems like the companies that kind of dangle that carrot, like the dream, dream, struggle, victory, like you're going to have this and this, and that's all they talk about. Typically it's because you're in an inferior situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're getting things taken from you that shouldn't. So the dream is bigger, but the comp is smaller. The dream is bigger, but the renewals ain't there. The dream is bigger, but the training and support's there. The dream is bigger, but you can't get enough leads. And that's kind of what I see take place, where FFL, it's so different because people are like, why aren't you guys talking about how much everybody's making and the dreams and all that kind of stuff? And that's a funny thing, Vivian. The other day I realized that, and Andrew had asked Sean on the Q&A podcast, he said, "How many people do you think have made $1 million with FFL already and that'll make $1 million this year?" And he never said that. There's never anybody that gets on a call and says, "I make $1 million and you can too." Like, it's just not talked about. It's like, hey, we're going to go out there and work our butts off. We're going to provide the best opportunity for anybody to have a shot, from objectively leads, comp, training, support, no fees, no contract, all that stuff. And then you'll just figure it out. And you start looking at numbers. It's not hard to do the math. And Sean was like, there'll be like hundreds of people that'll make $1 million a year with Family First Life. We'll have more people wealthy than anywhere else. And I was like, that was the first time that ever got brought up. And it kind of clicked for me, because I remember at the other company I worked for, that's all they talked about. They paraded these couple people around, and I got close to the top, and I realized that they ain't even making no money. Gross is different than net. And those fools are gross. And, and there wasn't many people doing it because it's hard when the deck's stacked against you, but the industry is so lucrative. So I wanted to talk about that because that was a big thing that you spoke about as you kind of talked about prior to FFL. Also, when you look at like what you've done in before FFL, you've got a business background. Not everybody does. Like for me, Vivian, I was completely opposite. 19, pumping septic tanks, never having any kind of inkling on self-employment. I mean, I guess I did for about 6 months. I sold something that used to be illegal, but now it's legal, so it's less frowned upon, But I did that for a little while. Got some sales, how to, save money, reinvest and stuff, how to figure that all out. But for you, you have a very, a good portfolio in business. So when you came on board, was it ever difficult for you to invest $1,000 in leads?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so for somebody that doesn't have that background, because for you, I would initially think like, of course it's not. I mean, you put down $1 million and took a risk, And when it didn't pay out, you didn't start taking 17 different Xanaxes and Zolofts and like, where's Vivian? I don't know. She's hiding in the corner over there because she lost. You just went back after it. How do you think somebody that doesn't have that business background not come up with these wrong perspectives on investing $1,000 in leads? Because I got to assume you didn't always have the income and situation you had before. You kind of got there somehow. You got there like everybody did, started from nothing and built something. How does somebody develop that right perspective on investment in leads?
I think the first thing that people need to do is believe in yourself. If you want to get it, if you want to come into this industry and you don't believe in yourself, it's funny because I tell this every one of my writers in my agency. I tell them, listen, if you have a problem buying leads, you gotta go work at a fast food company. You're gonna make more money there. Because if you're gonna come in here and you're gonna say, oh, I'm gonna spend 200 bucks in leads, I'm gonna spend 300 bucks in leads. Don't get me wrong, but when I started in this industry, I didn't have $1,000 in leads. I had to get a loan because I didn't have money. I was $500,000 in debt. And I started with age mortgage protection leads. So I think I bought like $300 in leads to begin with, but I was willing to sit down and do 1,200 dials, me and my husband, 2,400 dials a day to be able to book those leads. Nobody does that. Okay, so if you have that work ethic, sure, you can come here and spend $300 and you're gonna be fine because you're gonna work those leads like your life depends on it, like I did. But
Right.
most people are not willing to do that. So if you're not willing to do that and spend 14, 15, 16 hours dialing in a day, you're gonna need to put yourself in a position where you're going to win. I usually say we book 15 appointments, so even when you lose, you win, right? If you book 15 appointments and you get 7 no-shows, you still have 7 opportunities of actually making money. So what I usually say to everybody in my agency is you have to believe in yourself and you have to bet on yourself. If you're going to come into this opportunity, this is not a job. I can't say that enough. This is an opportunity. You can take the opportunity and you can find a way to win with it and you can make it big with it, or you can take the opportunity and do nothing and come up with excuses and have no results because it's an opportunity. Nobody's going to do it for you. It depends on you. So because of my entrepreneurial mindset and because of my business background, that's what attracted me here. Now, for a regular person that's used to, making a paycheck and working for somebody else, it can be scary. But then you stop and you think about, okay, do I really want to keep working as hard as I am to build somebody else's life, to build somebody else's dream, to build somebody else's company? Or am I willing to put my time and my energy and my money, a little bit of money, Paul? Because to be honest, like when you're talking about, a franchise or a brand new business, you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars before you make $1. That's just how it works. I've done it so many times. It's not gonna be 10,000. It's gonna be 20. It's gonna be hundreds of thousands of dollars before you see a dime. So here you come and with very little money, you can invest a little bit and get it back the very next day. So believe in yourself, bet on yourself. Understand that if you wanna have a mediocre life, sure, go work for somebody else, make a little bit of money. Live a mediocre life. But if you want to have an extraordinary life, you have to be willing to do extraordinary things. And sometimes it's going to be spend $1,000 in needs when that's crazy to you. But get out of your comfort zone because you only grow when you are uncomfortable. If you're comfortable, you're not going anywhere.
I love that. I got a sign in my office, Vivian, that says life begins at the end of your comfort zone. That's one of the things I live by. Anytime I started to get comfortable, I was scared that complacency would follow. But when I'm uncomfortable, I'm growing. And it's like what you think isn't, what you think isn't is. You think like, man, if I could just kind of just rest and get to this point here and then no. But when you do that, fulfillment is fleeting. It's like, and you realize that no, you're fulfilled when you're out there operating your God-given abilities and talents and that God created you for greatness, that you should be able to go out there and get better and grow. This isn't a goal destination. This is growth oriented. How do I continue to grow, expand, and get better? And I love that. And I think, Vivian, like a lot of what you're talking about, I heard this concept. It was called like a possibilist. So like having an idea of what's possible, like, having that vision of what you can, get after. And that's kind of like that goal. Like I'm standing here currently, but I want to get here. And everybody has a gap, and that changes, it shifts. Like For you, Vivian, your gap right now is, to get to maybe $1 million in paid business in X amount of time. But once you get there, you're no longer hoping to get there. You've arrived. So now you're like, what else is possible? Can I get 3 of my people to $1 million? Can I get 4 of my people to integrity? Can I get this 10 million? And so those changes, but also having an understanding of what reality is, like where you're currently standing. And I think people sometimes get so focused on what's possible, but they're never really focused on where they're currently at and have an understanding of an awareness of, well, I can't say I want to write 10 grand, but I'm not willing to travel an hour and a half. Does that make sense? Like I want to write 10 grand. I know it's possible, but then they're stuck at this crossroads, but I'm not willing to do this. Or they come up with excuses. Or I want to have 15, 20 appointments every 2 days. So I want to run 30 a week, but I don't have enough leads, but I don't want to get the expensive leads. I want to get the inexpensive leads, but I don't want to make more than 250 phone calls. And so really what that's saying is you don't understand where you're at. You don't understand the reality of where you're currently at. And so when you understand that, like you, Vivian, you said, I got some of these older second chance mortgage leads. I knew I was going to have to pay the price on the phones. I wasn't going to just be like, all right, I'm going to dial for 2-3 hours. Now, if you got brand new leads and you spent $1,500, well, you bought your time back, you can hit your goal in 2, 3, 4 hours. But in the beginning, if you don't have the money and you have the time, you better be willing to pay the price with your time, not pretend like you're able to pay the same price with time with a different lead type. Where are you currently at? What's necessary today to get you to the possibility of where you wanted to be tomorrow? That's what it boils down to. And so I want to do this real quick, Vivian, like rapid fire, getting to know your personal production. So the things everybody's wondering. So lead flow, what's your weekly lead flow? What are you investing in? What kind of leads do you get? What does that look like?
I get whatever I can get my hands on. I work internet life leads. I work mortgage protection. I have a bunch of mortgage protection mail drops. And I do final expense mailers as well.
Okay. So to that point too, and you got a team that's growing out, you said like 300,000-400,000 this month. And this is July. Just so if you're watching this in November and you're like, Vivian ain't doing 300 grand, she's doing 700. It's because she's an animal. She's probably going to do 700 grand next couple months. But when you look at, the volume that's tied to that, and you're saying, I'm getting X amount of leads, and it's direct mail, instant internet life leads. For some people getting started, CRM is a great way to start, right? Instant internet life, second chance mortgage, rework Facebook. You can get a lot of leads there. But once you start getting moving, you want to have more control. So like I found, Vivian, a lot of agents that they're in areas where they can get direct mail final expense and they don't have those on. And then at the end of the week, they'll have this excuse. Well, I could have wrote my 10 grand, but there was only 60 leads on the CRM, not 120. Well, it's like, what are you doing? Have you got a foundation of leads that's consistent where every week you get them like clockwork with direct mail? Maybe that's mortgage protection, direct mail final expense, and you can reach out lead vendors will hook you up with Mail Pro or BPO through ARM. So you can get those. And then what it allows you to do is you're less likely to miss your goal because it's easier to pick up the 20 or 30 that you need that are in addition to it, opposed to depending on the full amount of CRM leads to be there and available, right? Do you do any travel trips? Where do you run a business? What does that look like?
I don't do travel trips right now because when I started running with FFL, I was 7 months pregnant.
Wait a minute.
So
wait, you said you're 7 months pregnant. So when you were 7 months pregnant, you wrote 100,000?
107, yeah.
107. So your third trimester, right? And I can't pretend like I was, I've been in a third trimester because that would be weird. But my wife's been in multiple. We've got, enough kids to have a whole basketball squad. And I know how she feels in her third trimester. And she's like, yeah, get this baby out of me. You know what I mean? Like what are you talking about today, babe?
I was door knocking at 7 months pregnant. Like I would go a whole day like I will never forget this one day. I was like, I had just come back into the field because the reality is I started with FFL, I think it was in September. But then I found out I was pregnant and I was put on bed rest. So I was in bed for 4 months. So I really was only able to get back. I ran for 1 month. Actually I did that $107,000 was I wasn't pregnant just yet. It was my first month when I got in here. And then I found out I was pregnant. I had to be put on bed rest. And then I came back into the field in February. I was 7 months pregnant. And then I remember that all of my leads, they were all direct mail at that time. They were all like aged and I couldn't get in touch with them. Right. I said, I'm not going to take this. I got up and my husband was like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to go door knock to set appointments. He's like, are you crazy? You're 7 months pregnant. I'm like, I don't care. So I woke up like at 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, I was knocking on doors. At noon, my legs were swallowing up. I was like, oh my God, I just really want to go home. But I had my favorite book, which is Unstoppable by Dave Anderson. I had it playing on my car, and that book kept me going throughout the entire day. So I door knocked, I think, until 9 o'clock at night. And when I came home, I had 9 appointments. And the next day, I went out and ran those appointments, and I wrote $16,000 on door knocks.
That is unbelievable. So were you running appointments when you were 9 months pregnant?
Yeah, I ran appointments until May 8th, and my son was born on May 15th.
I love that. What did you write on your 9th month being pregnant?
57. I issued 57,000.
Okay. So you're 9 months pregnant. You issue pay 57,000. I just want to be clear. So anybody on here that's watching, if you ever have an excuse and it comes in your head, I just want you to do one thing. I want you to remember that Vivian wrote 57,000 and she came off bed rest and she was 9 months pregnant. And so that's why I said, when you say like, have some respect for yourself, it's like, you got a little Vivian in you. I mean, it's not that deep. You can overcome it. Like you can step over that. Vivian, do you always have like something good playing in your car when you're driving from one house to the next, like a podcast or training? How important that is that? And why do you think it's important?
Well, I feel like you need to have 5 positive things to overcome one negative thing that you're going to get, throughout your day. So, I mean, I listen to trainings as well. But for me, I feel like it's very important to remind ourselves where we want to get and how to get there. And I usually say that in this business, 50% of what you're going to get is going to be based on your mindset, and the other 50% is going to be based on your activity. You can't have a phenomenal mindset or winning mindset and just not dial the phones. It's not going to work for you. Then you can like have most activity, the best activity in the world, and have a really bad mindset that you just don't believe in yourself. You don't think you're going to make it. You're just not going to get there. You have to have a little bit of both. So you have to feed your mindset. You have to protect your mindset, and you need to toughen up your mindset. So for me, I have a very specific routine that I started doing a year ago. And don't get me wrong, Paul, when I started in this industry, I wanted to quit many times. I remember myself sitting on the floor in the shower, crying and like saying, oh my God, I don't think this is for me. But do you know what? I would just get up and I would go right back to it the next day. And I didn't care how hard it was. I would just push through it. And because I did that, I always say to every single one of our new agents, it's a lot harder in the beginning. After you master the phones, after you master the field, after you master protecting your mindset, it's easy. It's easy picking up the phone and getting, I'm not interested, or I didn't feel anything out. It's easy. You're just gonna take it. It's easy. You have to get through those first few months, right? Get through in Dallas. We just had an opening over there, so I did a speech and I talked a little bit about this. This is actually a really funny analogy, and you probably know this very well because you have 100 kids. So I learned with my newborn, because I have a 10-year-old, right? I really didn't remember how things were with newborns anymore. So I was thinking the other day, why do newborns, little babies, they don't stop when they want something, and we do? Why are little babies relentless and we're not? And the reason is because we just got burned by life so many times that we learned to stop. Our parents tell us to stop when we're going after our dreams. So what we need to do is just forget everything we know, right? And then feed your mindset to be able to toughen up your mind so we can get through the fear, the obstacles, the things that are going to tell you to stop or to quit. So yeah, I'm a big person when it comes to mindset. I always have audiobooks in my car, and I'm always listening to things. And it's what changed my business in a way that I can't even explain.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. And I think that about anybody I've ever interviewed, when I ask that question, like, do they have a personal growth plan in place? Whether that's listening to a book, reading a book, audios, using their windshield time with developing, growing, and keeping the right perspective. They all say yes, yeah. I mean, because it is that important. It's so easy to start buying a lie. Like, I'm not good enough. This isn't going to work. It's the leads. It's this. And the moment you start doing that, you start changing your steps and you're going down a path that's going to lead to ultimate failure. You're not going to learn, grow, and develop from the setback or struggle. Vivian, for me, I just always, when I had a bad week, I almost was like weirdly thankful. I don't know if it was thankful, but almost like it reminded me that this is real. Like, so when I got beat up and it was hard and it was struggling, I'm like, this just doesn't feel good. I wouldn't sit back and spend too much time thinking like maybe this isn't going to work. I thought like, man, this is going to work. And when it does work, it's going to be good because this is painful. And I think that nowadays with instant gratification and everybody looking at everybody else's highlight reel, they forget that. Like they it's easy for them to look at you, Vivian, and say, well, okay, she's written all this volume. Look how well she's doing. And when they're having that shower moment where they're, crying and like, this is a struggle and this is hard. And they're like, I need this to work. Could it please work? I'm giving it everything I've got. I feel like I'm giving it everything I got, but yet I don't see progress. That they might lose hope because they don't understand that that's supposed to look like that. It looked
And
like that for you?
that's what I tell my new agents, every single one of them. I tell them, listen, you're gonna fail your way to success. You're not gonna, even if you come in here and you have some success on your very first week, the second week might not be as good as the first one or the third one. So know that you're going to fail your way to success. You're going to get destroyed on the phones. You're gonna get destroyed on the field. There's gonna be a learning curve. All you need to do is just push through it, push through it, push through it, and then you're gonna look back 3 months down the road, and then you're gonna be like, oh, that's true. I just had to push through it.
Sometimes like but you got to have that right perspective. And this is what I want to talk about now is like, how did you keep yourself from picking up an excuse that almost makes you feel okay with the pain? Sometimes we'll pick up something that it's like, it's temporary and it makes us feel a little better, but in the end it's worse. And a lot of times that's packaged in an excuse, like when things go bad, for us to kind of like feel better about ourselves. We can say, well, it's because of this, or it's because of that, or it's because of this situation. And you kind of justify or pick up an excuse or develop this martyr's mindset or victim mindset. That's kind of the easier way to do it. But the best thing to do is trying to pull something that you can take from it and get better. Like I know for me, my phone script really got honed in and my show ratio got really good when I had 9 no-shows in a row. And I stepped back and I said, okay, how can I tweak and adjust this to make it better? And coming out of that, my close rate, my show ratio went up 30% forever because of that 1 week where it was 0%, right? But Vivian, how do you do that? How, when things are not going the way they should be going, do you not pick up an excuse, but you pick up accountability and figure out ways to tweak, adjust, and get better and keep moving forward with good hope, with the right amount of faith to actually make it come to pass, opposed to self-sabotaging because you've got this excuse or this, this is always going to be like this, or you start to create this new perspective. How do you do that?
Well, I strongly believe that I create my own reality, right? So when I was going through that time that we were $500,000 in debt and things weren't working out, I believe that was my fault. I created that reality for me. So I don't give myself an option to blame anything else on my failures or my successes than myself. I and this is and this came with time. It didn't come easy, right? Because when you build businesses and you fail and you have a lot of money that it's gone now, and you have to take accountability for it, right? It's your responsibility. So for me, first of all, I always try putting myself in a situation where I don't have a choice to come up with an excuse. If something's not going right, I have to come up with a solution. There's no time for me to sit down in a corner and cry. I basically need to figure it out. And sometimes back then it was like I had when I started in this business, if I didn't come up with money to pay my rent, I was going to be evicted in the middle of COVID. And it was because my lease was up. They couldn't evict me, but my lease was up, so he didn't need to renew my lease. And if I didn't pay, he wasn't going to renew my lease. So I literally would not have a place to live if I didn't come up with that money. So by putting myself against the wall, I'm actually putting myself in a situation that I am going to win no matter what. And it only depends on me. And here's the thing. The way that I look at it is a little bit different, Paul, because I've built so many businesses and I've done so well, in several occasions, and I've done so bad in several other occasions that for me, I see that it depends on me and me only. Where all of the other businesses I've had before, it depended on the marketing, it depended on the Facebook ads, it depended on the clients wanting the products, it depended on many different things that I had no control. Where with this business, I have control. So if I'm not getting the results I want, I'm doing something wrong. I'm either not dining enough. I'm either not, having, control of my script when I'm booking the appointments, or I'm not locking it down, or I'm not doing a good time, a good job on the road or on the field, or I don't know what it is I'm doing. So I have to figure it out and come up with a reason and then fix it, because I don't have a choice. I have non-negotiable agreements with myself. Me and my husband, we have non-negotiable agreements with ourselves. So when we make a goal, it's simple. That goal is going to be met. There's no, oh, I had a baby. Oh, it's okay. I didn't issue $1.5 million in December. Oh, I had a baby. No, no. I don't care that I had a baby. I have to figure it out. We made a goal, $1.5 million by December. We're issuing $1.5 million by December. So it's kind of like how we set up our lives, which is non-negotiable agreements. That's our goal. This is what we're going to do. And if I have to put my back against the wall in whatever situation I am, I will do that, because there's no option not to get to that point where we want to get.
Well, Vivian, I'll tell you what, when I listen to you talk, I think everybody would agree. They would say, man, she seems like a very confident person. Now, I think that the confidence, if I'm guessing, because I know this is where I pull a lot of my confidence from, is your non-negotiable agreements that you keep. So when you say I'm going to do this and then you do it, that's that self-reputation. You start to develop that integrity. You're like, man, I'm a dependable person. And so that builds confidence and security that, hey, if I need to get something done, I'll figure it out. Throw whatever you want at me, whatever problem, issue, situation, whatever you want to call it, go ahead and throw it at me, but I'm going to figure it out because I've developed that reputation from non-negotiable agreements. And I think when I listen to you, I think everybody's like, she's confident. How do I get confident? You get confident by doing what you say you're going to do amidst any situation, circumstance, dilemma, problem. And the reality is this: most of you have more in you than you think. The problem is you're not tapping into it because it's not life or death. If you want to be great, how do you put yourself in a life or death situation when it's not life or death? Because then all of a sudden you realize, man, I got a lot more in me than I thought I did. Because the problem is when things start going better than we expected or not as good as expected, we can either run to excuses or complacency. Both are compromise, both on your goal to your next destination, the gap to cover, that throws quicksand in there. So now as you're stepping to get there, you're wondering, why is this so much harder? Why does it seem like my energy is drained? Why does it seem like I'm trying to fight? I'm fighting my own self. How do I get in my own way? What kind of stupid question? You get in your own way by just getting back after it, creating more non-negotiables and keeping your eyes off the fruit and keeping your eyes on the root. Let's just continue to press forward and be process oriented, that it's going to come to fruition if we keep the right perspective. And see, that's the stuff when I'm hearing you talk, Vivian, I'm like, God, that's what I'm getting. I have no doubt. Like, I would bet a lot on you. So if anybody's on here watching, like, I bet this person will get to 1.5 faster than Vivian, I'll take the bet. Like, just Shoot it in the comments. Like, I think this person will, and I'll bet, I mean, I'll take 2-to-1 odds. I mean, cause you've got that about you, and anybody can do that though. It just starts. What does it start with? I don't know. Did you say you were going to wake up at 5 a.m. today? Did you do it? Well, no, that's what wanes on your confidence. It's the little things that just start to deliberate you, debilitate you. It's those little things that mess you up. Vivian, is there any kind of like excuse? So let's talk about personal production, because you've absolutely crushed it with personal sales. In fact, I was talking to Andrew and he's like, man, Vivian had a baby like 2 weeks ago. This was at the LA conference. I was like, she did? And he's like, yeah. And she's already killing in the field. And you spoke on stage, absolutely crushed it. And I'm like, I got to get her on this podcast, and we got to talk about excuses and getting above your situation. Because anything could be excuse. You can make a blessing an excuse. You can make a struggle. You can make anything an excuse. But how committed are you to what you want to go out there and accomplish? And that's what we're talking about here. And just so you guys know, before we move into this last point, I'm just telling you, don't get tied up in how you feel comparing it to somebody else's highlight reel. Like, I feel like I'm struggling. It's not going to work. I feel it all. Me and Andrew quit on each other like every other day when we got started. I'd call him up like, dude, I think I'm going to quit. He's like, you are? I'm like, yeah, man, I had 2 no sales. I think I've gotten lucky. He's like, dude, you're fine. And then he'd call me up. He quit actually for real. And then his mom called him a wussy. And he already paid like $1,000 to go to a conference, because that was before FFL, where you had to pay $1,000 to go to an event, which makes no sense because the carriers pay for most of it anyways. So he's like, she said, I got to go. I already spent the money. They're not going to refund it to me. So he ended up going, and then he made some changes, investing in leads, seeing it more an entrepreneur. But we all do it. I did the same thing. It's okay. But can you just continue to do the things that are going to eventually lead you to the right outcome? Everybody's starting line looks different, but you're not stuck with what you started with. If you start looking forward and with a hopeful expectation that it'll look better if you just stick to your daily activities and make it a non-negotiable. So Vivian, as we wrap up, I do want to give something practical in the home, because you absolutely crush it. How do you eliminate excuses in the home? And you call them objections or whatever they want to call it. But when the client says, I can't afford it, or the client says, I need to shop around, the client, how do you pull away excuses? Are you proactive so you don't get as many? Can you kind of talk about that? How are you an excuse eliminator with the clients as you step into the clients' houses?
Well, the way that I do my presentation, and that's across the board, if I'm doing mortgage protection, which is my specialty, mortgage protection is, I can say, it's what I do best. Mortgage protection, final expense, instant internet life leads. I usually say that the best way to avoid objections is not to get them. So the way that my presentation is set up is I do something that I call the role and purpose. And my role and purpose, I say, it's the most important part of my presentation, because I will address every single objection that will probably come up throughout the entire process, right? So I will address them. I'll let them know exactly what I'm doing, because I don't want to kidnap my clients, right? So I want to let them know what it is that I'm going to be doing next. And I will get their buy-in every step of the way. So if I get to the end of the presentation, they say, I want to think about it. Say, do you remember when you told me you're not going to think about it? Because nobody thinks about life insurance. You're going to take this paper, you're going to put it in the drawer. And then when you die, your kid's going to call me and they're going to want to file a claim. And I'm going to be the person that's going to have to tell them that dad wanted to think about it. And they're like, yeah, that's true. I told you I wasn't going to think about it. So I usually address everything ahead of time. I get their buy-in and I hold them accountable to that. The other thing that I do when it comes to making sure that I won't get those excuses and those objections from my clients is I usually say, Paul, that I care. And caring makes a really big difference when you sit in front of a client. I do not go into a home to make a sale. I go into a home to help them. And when you care and you ask the right questions, you understand and you know your clients enough to be able to use a rebuttal that makes sense for them and will help make their lives better rather than me trying to make a sale to them. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I think that, Vivian, everybody wants to know, like, do you care about me, and can I trust you? And when you go in and you care about them, they're going to feel that. But if you walk into the client's house, you're like, man, I need to make a paycheck. Man, I'm at 7,000. I got to hit 10K. I told myself I was going to hit 10K. Vivian said I need to have good integrity with myself. I got to hit 10K. Well, you do. But if you walk in and that's where you're working from, they're going to not be able to answer that question with a yes when they say, do you care about me and do you trust me? And that's what they're looking for. Do you care and can I trust? And I love what you said. I've never heard it said that way, Vivian. I think it's the best way I've heard it said. If you work from there, you're going to find the best approach or words or phrases or whatever you want to call it to connect with the clients that gets them to feel that, because it's all coming from the right place. Your heart is in the right place. And see, when you go in, the clients will hear your heart because it's in the right place. The problem is if you're struggling out there and your heart is about yourself, oh, they hear that too. But that's not very attractive. They're not moved by that. You can't be as direct, bold, and challenging because it doesn't come from the right place. So what could be as passion from the right place seems like pressure from the wrong place. Passion moves them to make the right decision. Pressure keeps them stuck from ever making it. And so I think that was perfectly said. And I just want to thank you. This was, and I don't want to be offensive, and then again, I really don't care to anybody else that's been on here, but this is one of the best podcasts I've been on, and you absolutely crushed it. Thank you for serving today. This made a big difference, I'm sure, for a lot of others. It made a difference for me. I got a lot of stuff from it. And so, Vivian, I appreciate you, and it's an honor to be in business with you. Honor to have you on the team, and excited to see your success.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been an honor being here with you, and I hope it helps a little bit, to every one of you that's going out there and crushing this week, this month, next month. And if you guys ever need anything, reach out.
Well, I promise you it definitely is. So guys, make it a massive week. Be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
What's up, guys? Casey here. I'm going to be giving $250 in leads away right now. I'm going to click this button right here, and it's going to spin the wheel. And make sure that you're commenting every week. Comment on this video right now to make sure that you are entered to win $250 in leads. It is a huge opportunity, and who doesn't want free stuff, right? I know I love free stuff, but make sure you leave a comment, because that's how you get entered to win. And don't spam us with comments either, because we filter those out. But leave a comment on this video right now to be entered to win next week's drawing to win some leads. Without further ado, let's get to it. We've got Elizabeth Ambrose. She said, killer techniques. Thanks, Paul, for keeping us plugged into the blueprint for success. Getting valuable tips from every video. This is why we do what we do, guys. We're all growing together, we're all learning together, and we're all helping families together. Let's go out there and kill it. We'll see you guys next week.